Seneca called anger the most destructive of all emotions, worse than hatred, worse than greed. He said it makes us temporarily insane. And 2,000 years later, neuroscience proves he was right. When you're angry, the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for judgment and reason, essentially shuts down. You are, for those moments, no longer thinking. You are reacting. And the damage you do in that state can last a lifetime. Seneca wrote an entire book about this. It's called De Ira on Anger, and the tools inside it are more useful than anything modern psychology has replaced them with. Most people think anger is a single thing. You're calm, then you're furious, like flipping a switch. Seneca saw it differently. He broke anger down into 3 distinct stages, and understanding these stages is the key to stopping anger before it controls you. The first stage is involuntary. It's the spark. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Someone insults you. Someone breaks a promise. Your body reacts before your mind catches up. Your heart rate spikes, your jaw tightens, your fists clench. Seneca said this stage is not your fault. It's biological, it's reflexive. You can't stop it any more than you can stop flinching when something flies at your face. The second stage is where everything changes. This is the moment your mind gets involved. The spark has happened. Now you tell yourself a story about it. He did that on purpose. She doesn't respect me. They think they can get away with this. Seneca said this is the critical window because the spark didn't make you angry. The story did. The judgment you attach to the event is what transforms a biological reflex into a full emotional takeover. The third stage is the one Seneca feared most. Once you've accepted the story, once you've agreed with your anger, it takes the wheel. Reason disappears. You say things you can't unsay. You send messages you can't unsend. You make decisions from the worst, most distorted version of yourself. Seneca called this stage temporary madness, and he meant it literally. In those moments, you are not sane. The entire Stoic approach to anger lives in stage 2, that gap between the spark and the story. That is where you have power. That is where you're still free. Here's why anger is so dangerous. It always feels justified every single time. In the moment of rage, you are absolutely certain that your anger is righteous, proportional, and deserved. Seneca said that's exactly how you know you've lost control. Think about the last time you were truly angry at someone. In that moment, you had a perfectly clear narrative. You were the victim. They were the villain. Your response was appropriate. Their behavior was unacceptable. It all made perfect sense. Now think about how you felt 3 days later. The intensity had faded. The story had softened. Maybe you even realized you overreacted. Maybe you saw their side. Maybe you understood that the thing you were so certain about was only one interpretation of what happened. Seneca pointed this out constantly. Anger distorts perception. It takes partial information and builds a complete case for war. It ignores context, nuance, and the possibility that you might be wrong. And the more justified it feels, the more distorted it probably is. He wrote that no one becomes angry unless they believe they've been wronged. But belief is not the same as truth, and your certainty in the heat of the moment is the least reliable certainty you'll ever have. So what do you actually do when the anger arrives? Seneca's answer is disarmingly simple. Wait. He wrote, the greatest remedy for anger is delay. Not suppression, not denial, not deep breathing exercises. Delay, put time between the stimulus and your response. That's it. Why does this work? Because anger cannot sustain itself without your cooperation. The initial spark, stage 1, fades on its own. It's designed to. It's a burst of neurochemistry that peaks and drops within minutes. But if you react immediately, if you fire off the email, raise your voice, or slam the door, you feed the spark. You give it fuel. You turn a flash into a fire. Delay starves the fire. When you wait 10 minutes before responding, something remarkable happens. The prefrontal cortex comes back online. The story you told yourself in stage 2 starts to weaken. You begin to see the situation more clearly. And the response you would have given in the heat of the moment, the one that felt so necessary, so urgent, so justified, starts to look embarrassing. Seneca practiced this himself. When he felt anger rising, he would not speak. He would not write. He would wait until the feeling passed and then decide from calm whether a response was even necessary. Most of the time, it wasn't. The thing that felt like an emergency turned out to be a minor irritation that wouldn't matter by tomorrow. Delay buys you time. But what do you do with that time? Seneca's next tool is what modern psychologists now call cognitive reframing. Change the story. Remember, the anger lives in stage 2, the interpretation, the narrative you attach to the event. So the most powerful thing you can do in those 10 minutes of delay is challenge your own story. Someone didn't return your call. Your angry story says they don't respect you. But is that true? Could they be overwhelmed? Could they have forgotten? Could there be an explanation that has nothing to do with you at all? Someone criticized your work. Your angry story says they're attacking you. But could they be trying to help? Could the feedback be accurate? Could your defensiveness be the real problem? Seneca wasn't asking you to make excuses for people who wrong you. He was asking you to consider the possibility that you might not have the full picture. And in his experience, you almost never do. He wrote that we are often angrier at the interpretation than at the act itself. The insult stings because of the story you tell about what it means, not because of the words that were spoken. Change the story and the sting disappears. Delay and reframing are powerful in the moment, but Seneca went further. He wanted to prevent anger from arriving in the first place, and his method for this was the evening review. Every night, Seneca examined his day. Where did I lose my temper? What triggered it? Was my response proportional? What would I do differently? He describes this practice in De Ira, and he says it was the habit that changed him more than any other. The reason this works is pattern recognition. Most people have the same anger triggers over and over, the same kinds of situations, the same kinds of people, the same stories firing in the same predictable sequence. But they never notice the pattern because they never look back. They just react, recover, and wait for the next explosion. Seneca's evening review breaks the cycle. When you review your anger honestly, you start to see the pattern. You notice that certain people always trigger you. You notice that certain situations always produce the same story. And once you see the pattern, you can intervene before stage 2 even begins. You can walk into the triggering situation prepared the way Marcus Aurelius prepared each morning for difficult people. Not surprised, not reactive, ready. Over time, this doesn't just manage your anger, it dissolves it, because anger needs surprise and certainty to survive. Here's your challenge. The next time you feel anger rising, and you will feel it probably before the week is out, do not respond. Set a 10-minute timer on your phone. During those 10 minutes, write 3 things: what triggered you, what you want to say right now, and what you would say if you weren't angry. Then, when the timer goes off, look at the difference between those last 2 answers. The gap between what anger wants to say and what calm wants to say is the distance between who you are at your worst and who you are at your best. Seneca would tell you to always respond from the second answer. Always. Seneca didn't write on anger because he was naturally calm. He wrote it because he wasn't. He struggled with this his entire life. And the techniques he left behind are the result of a man fighting and winning a daily battle against his own worst impulses. The greatest remedy for anger is delay. If this changed how you think about anger and self-control, subscribe for more ancient wisdom that still works today. Drop a comment telling me what triggers you most and how you plan to handle it differently. I read every single one.